Due to what I can argue is probably the worst tragedy that that this country has ever experienced, which was the Madia about a week ago, the dormitory of the all-girls school that took the lives of 20 children now. It was 19 originally, but then within the last couple of days, another young lady passed away due to the injuries she suffered. So our heart and prayers and thoughts and support go out to the families. Words can't describe how all of us feel here in Guyana. And what at minimum we can do is we can ensure that there is justice and what has occurred does not go in vain. What we'd like to see obviously from this is major change. And one of the initial ways for change, and something that I personally somewhat leading the charge on, is accountability. I think that's probably one of the first understandings that I think Guyanese as a whole need to understand. And I get that we are very torn between APNU, PNC, and PPP. I understand that majority of the country will always fall onto one of those two sides. This is how it's been historically, and for the next little while, it's how it will be. What we have seen, though, emerge from the 2011 to now is that a lot of people have not only grown weary of the two political parties, the PNC and the PPP, but what we've seen is room for people that are actually interested in not necessarily seeing a new party pop up and take over the country, which is possible, but what more importantly we'd like to see is there to be a balance in power. What this country has always struggled with was, since independent, it's always been one or the other. So you've always had a majority PPP or a majority PNC government. And what that created was a situation that, you know, one organization goes in and kind of does whatever they want, creates this clan mentality with their people and support their friends and family, but then everybody else in the country perish. And it's been a back and forth toying throughout our history. And I think what we've seen now is the catalyst of hopefully a lot of Guyanese opening their eyes and realizing, wait a second, what we're doing and what we have been doing is not working anymore. People are now losing their lives. As the country develops and moves forward, we really need to at some point in time understand that what we used to do in the past can no longer work. So I'll give you a small example of that. The oil industry, for example, has come in to the country, and it's what's really driving everything in the country at the moment, economically. And what we have all seen, and I can attest to this because I'm just like the everyday person on the road, but you see a lot more people, for example, just as simple as wearing protective gear. You know, their reflector vests, hard hats, simple things, steel toe shoes, things in the construction industry and in the industrial industry never even existed in the past. Everybody used to, wear their regular stuff. Safety was never an issue, was never something that was ever seriously taken into consideration when, putting together businesses or executing jobs. But now, as the oil companies have come in, obviously, these companies are very large international companies working all over the world. And the last thing they need is bad publicity for people getting harmed, injured, or dying while on the job working for them. So what we've seen a lot of is a lot more PPE, personal protective equipment, coming into play. So we've seen safety kind of be pushed forward a little bit more. What I know a lot of the professionals out there will understand is what we're having a lot less of now is a lot of jack of all trades, where before, as a Guyanese business person, you kind of were hustling, making ends meet, doing odd jobs here and there. As a contractor, you'd pretty much do everything under the sun: plumbing, electrician, carpentry, mason work, everything across the board. But what you're finding now is these larger companies, because of not only their requirement for higher standards, but also higher safety measures, need you to be focusing on one thing at a time. And because of that, what you're finding now is obviously, a lot of the private organizations and companies are stepping their safety standards up to meet the needs and requirements of the larger companies. So with that being said, it is a very good example of us needing much more safety measures and personal protection for the citizens of this country. And what we have to understand is that starts at the top, coming down to the bottom. I'll give you another odd little example just to show. There was recently a accomplice, well, Somali, the escapee from the Mazruni prison, I think has been pretty much confirmed now that he has been shot and killed in a confrontation with the joint services. With that said, just previously to him being caught, I think a day or two before, there was another accomplice that was shot and killed, according to police reports. And one of the pictures that was floating around social media was this accomplice with his hands tied behind his back. Well, you couldn't see that they were tied, but they were obviously kind of stuck behind him. And a police officer, or again, somebody with authority, putting their foot on his chest. That person in that picture was wearing a pair of Crocs. Now, again, you go right back into safety and precautions. Again, you're on a manhunt in a jungle trek, and you're running through the jungle in Crocs. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I understand that the argument is going to be, well, in the bush, that's what they wear, or, sometimes, maybe they were caught off guard. I guess if you read the article, you'll know that they were on patrol. What you really need to find out is, why are they not being trained, or even, and if they are trained properly, which I'm sure many of them are, why are they not given the proper resources in order to execute their job safely? I mean, you can argue, but yes, they're all allocated a pair of boots. Why are they not allocated more than one pair of boots then? If that's what's required for their job. So it's just little things that you kind of have to keep building back up to, in understanding that it starts at the top, coming down. So if, for example, you look at safety measures that are put in place for the president or the ministers. So for example, they all have a driver and they all have security at their homes. Now, if you were to take one step down from that and understand that their role as their government official is not to protect themselves, but to protect society as first and foremost, then the next question is, why are there not, if Guyana is under threat, right? If we keep claiming that there are bad elements out there, that there are criminals, and there are people lighting fires, as you continue to hear the narrative being peddled, then the question again boils back down to, then why aren't there police? Why is there not a proactive measure in ensuring that these things cannot happen? That people are protected when these bad elements do step forward. Now, this is kind of a precursor to where the show is going, and understanding that we need to start taking a lot more serious look into not only safety, but accountability. It is in the mandate. What I'm going to do is, I often, again, being a political figure myself, I like to show, other people's opinions. So there is a social media commentator that did some research recently, and she found, she was doing some research, and I guess everybody can do it. You can go onto the local government ministry's website, and which we all did as we did our research. And you can see, I'm going to ask the technical team to just bring up that clip here. What you're going to see is she's doing quite a good job of explaining what exactly the roles and responsibilities are of the ministry itself, of the local government ministry. And maybe we can have a little bit more insight in understanding where down the ladder safety again becomes the responsibility of all. So let me ask our technical people to please bring up that clip of the Facebook lady. I think her name is Rhonda. She'll show you a little bit more explaining, and then I'll divulge a bit more. If you guys will. Are you ready? By the way, just while we're waiting, the number up there is on there. I will take a few calls today. I know I haven't been doing it in my previous shows, so my apologies. But 689-8474, 592 for all those outside. But if you're local, you can reach us on WhatsApp or call us directly. The line is open. Please feel free. All right, I will be taking a few phone calls to get a few different perspectives. Are you guys ready with the clip? Oh, they seem to be...
So I know you all are familiar with these two ministers of Guyana. And they're in charge of this ministry here. I told y'all I was doing some digging today. And what I found out is this ministry is responsible for waste management, water resource, and quality and affordable housing solution. And what falls under that is installation of neighborhood centers and community facilities, which includes health centers, schools, dormitories, stuff like that, because their community, they provide services to the community. Okay. But the biggest shocker is that they are responsible for the community's disaster risk management. They're responsible for early warning and early response to disaster. They introduced regional disaster risk management platform and risk reduction management plan. They're supposed to conduct hazards and vulnerability assessments. So this is the government, the ministry that we're supposed to be looking at. And guess who knows this? The One Guyana government know that they're responsible for all of this. So you see, they're sitting quietly when we're blaming the Ministry of Education.
Great. Just as a little bit of understanding. So, I mean, everyone is free again, as I said, to please go on to the ministry's website and see this. Now, guys, why this is important now is at the end of the day, I'm sorry, I, as a father myself, I can't just let go of the fact that 20 young children perished because we didn't put them in a safe environment. And I say we, because as all of us here that are adults participating in this country's development, the fact of the matter is, why weren't, as everyone keeps rightfully saying, why weren't we making noise about this before? And it's funny because you get a lot of that type of commentary. Well, why didn't you say something before? You know, kind of, it mostly comes from PPP supporters, obviously trying to pass the blame. But I'd like to make that point very clear. You cannot just keep passing the blame to other people. So start with the first and foremost. We, the people, are not the government. It's not our job to do that. We are not taxpayer funded. That's why we pay taxes. The government's job, first and foremost, is to keep the public safe. Okay? We don't have money to fly in and out of Madia and walk around schools and ensure they're safe. That's not our job. I don't know how else to explain that to you people. Our job, when we vote for somebody, that vote is to give them the responsibility to look after our needs as a nation. They work for us. Your job is to protect me. The police's job is to protect the citizens. The fire service's job is to protect the citizens. We have to understand that. Stop making excuses and passing blame. Stop expecting other people to do the government's job. If they are not capable, they have to hire people that are. And that brings me into my next topic. You know, we have a really big problem in this country where every government, between the PNC and the PPP, they go into power and they put their friends and their family and their party loyalists into these jobs, and they have no experience or education in doing those jobs. So you have Minister Robeson Ben. He is an engineer, a civil engineer by trade. That is what he's done his whole life. How can you now ask him to be a security expert? How can you now ask him to ensure that fire safety measures are put in place? So you sit there and you say, but that's not his job in particular. His job is to hire people like the fire chief and the police chief to let them go and do their job, right? Well, now, this is where this gets very interesting, because both the fire chief and the police chief are in an acting position, okay? Meaning they have not been confirmed as permanent positions to do their job. Meaning, anytime the government feels like firing them, the government can pick up the phone, just like we've seen them do within the last 3 years. I think they've gone through 2 fire chiefs now, and stating, well, you haven't done your job, so we're firing you. So now we get back to the question of, if you again are allowed to fire that person for doing their job, then doesn't part of the responsibility then fall on you? So I like to use this example because it's how it works in my world. If you go to a restaurant, all right, and you get sick at the restaurant, let's say you get food poisoning, do you go and sue the chef and blame the chef? Or do you carry that restaurant to court, the owner and the restaurant itself? So understand that although the owner didn't cook the food, they are still responsible for everything that happens there. So now, even though the minister is not the fire chief, as the person that has put them in this acting position and has not given them the autonomy to do their job, then the fact of the matter is they bear responsibility. That is how it works. You go to a mechanic shop. The mechanic forget to tighten your tire when he putting it back on. And you drive up the road, your tire fall off, you get into an accident, you get injured. Do you go and sue just the mechanic that was working on your car? Or do you sue the owner of the mechanic shop? The person responsible for the mechanic shop. And in this case, the government is responsible. This is what we need to start getting through and understanding in this country. The buck stops at the top. It doesn't stop in the middle. You cannot pass blame. All right? If the government hired people that did not do their job properly, then the government failed at protecting those people. And in this case, those children. We have to understand that, we talk about a fire. We've watched, and again, just to understand why and how it's the government's responsibility. This is not the first, the second, the third, or the fourth school to burn to the ground in the last 2 years. In the last 2 years, that's since this government has gotten into power. So who do you blame then? How come since the first fire, every single school has not been outfitted with sprinkler systems and extinguishers? How come fire drills have not been done readily? How come the fire stations around all of these schools, how can the fire trucks show up without water? We watched it just happen a couple of days ago. One of the restaurants on Sheriff Street had a fire. But the truck shows up, no water again. I don't understand how we keep allowing this to happen. Again, it's not the first time. If you want to talk about a one-off situation, no problem. This is not the first time a school is burning down. And the tragedy that struck this time is what we have to now say, no, we're not accepting this. You had the chance to fix it. We need new people in there that will do a better job. That's the end result of this. All right? If this thing goes to a court, as you just heard from that social media commentator, go into the website yourself. Health, safety and emergency precautions falls under the Ministry of Local Government. But again, let's not get caught up with the bureaucracy. You even had, 3 days ago, you had Priya Manichan, Minister of Education, interviewed with Stabrook News, which was very happy to say, no, it's not my responsibility. It's the local government's responsibility. Happily stating that. A minister in government stated it is the local government's responsibility. Now, I have a question. We have a fire code, we have a building code in this country, all that include safety measures for fires and any other type of emergency disasters that exist. Okay? So now my question is, if this government is building schools and taking credit for all these schools they're building and all these development and buildings, so my question to you is, how come they get to take the credit when the school is built and showing how much money they spent, but not when that school burns down, not when no safety measures? Doesn't that just mean, it's funny because it's something that I say a lot to the people that I employ. You can't just do half your job and take credit for the half that you did, knowing that half the job was still not done. You don't get to take credit when you, let's say you cooked the food and the food was undercooked. You don't get to come to me as a chef and say, but I cooked half of it and half of it was cooked. You don't get to say that. All of the food needs to be cooked. All of it needs to be done. And this is the accountability we need to start holding the government to. You can't just build a building, take the praise because you have a shiny new building, but no safety measures in it. It burns to the ground, but it's not your responsibility. Please. That is your responsibility. You didn't finish the job. You didn't do the job to completion. You didn't do it properly. And that is your responsibility. Same thing with a road. It's funny because I'll post it on my status soon. The Thomas Lands Road, right down the middle, is my next, hopefully image on how this government is running. Thomas Lands Road between QC and YMCA here in Georgetown, all the way down to Sandy Bob Street, now needs to be fixed again. This is the third time in 3 years that road has to be fixed. The first thing they did is come in and take all the praise for this new system that they're working on. We're spending lots more money. We're doing a much better job. We're building a much better road. Perhaps the road gone again. So they come in and they do the old way now, the second time. No, we're just going to do it back the way we did it last year. Did it back again? Perhaps drive that road today. Go on to Thomas Lands. Once again, the whole road breaking away this side and all the potholes are now back. So now you ask me, if that doesn't show how little substance is behind all of this huge media parade that newsroom and all of them keep posting, praise the government, look how much they're doing. If that doesn't show that there's no substance behind it, it's just a facade, a show, I don't know what else to tell you. I don't know how else to prove it. I don't know how else to prove after four schools burning down and now another one burning down and killing children. I don't know how much to tell you they are not doing. Let's talk about transparency and accountability when it comes to developing countries. Another excuse that you often get is Rome wasn't built in a day. You can't expect the government to do everything all at once. Well, let's start with the basics. This government didn't just get into power. First of all, they've been here for 3 years. They've been in power for 3 years now. We only have a population of 750,000 people. This is a village anywhere else in the world. Stop making excuses, okay? We're not a mass city of 40 million, 10 million people. We have less than 1 million people in the whole country. Georgetown only got 300 and something thousand. Stop making excuses. Okay, that's the first thing. The second part of that is understanding that when the PPP keep saying, oh, we cleaning up the mess from the last 5 years. Come on. That's like so what you're basically saying is exactly what APNU said when they went in. Because everything APNU said for the first 3 years of their tenure was PPP was in here for 25 years and we have to clean up their mess. That's all APNU said. So guess what you're doing? Not saying the same thing again? Well, as I like to show, this whole situation, as sad and tragic as it is, it's a catalyst. All right? Hopefully to take the wool over everyone's eyes. And funny enough, it happens almost to the T on how it happened with APNU and how it's happening with PPP. The parking meter situation occurred where the APNU government and city mayor and city council signed some corrupt deal and they want to put up parking meters and it was damaging everybody's business and people couldn't park, etc. And everybody came out on the road. And all of a sudden, yes, you notice the flavor in the country change. All of a sudden, maybe APNU is not all that they're stating they're being. Well, the same thing has happened now, 3 years into the PPP tenure. All of a sudden, 20 children die. And you sit down and you go, but they keep talking about progress. How could 20 children die? The worst tragedy in the history of this country, even under APNU and all the governments previous. Never have we had this happen before. So where is the progress? Come on. We have to have a higher standard than this. We want to keep claiming that we're progressing, then accountability has to be had. Or else they're just going to go back into office and sit down and do nothing again. Oh, look at that. 20 children died under my watch. Guess what? Nobody did anything. I don't have any punishment. Now I definitely don't need to do anything. And here we go. Back to 2015, pre-2015 PPP with all their arrogance. Well, luckily, I can state that, through the outpour, I'm so of support. I'm so happy to see so many Guyanese opening their eyes and understanding. I've noticed the PPP campaign, just so you guys know, they sell, they pay people to go onto Facebook and write and write and write. If you notice, it's all fake profiles. And then you have the one or two that are in the PPP party that are out there speaking just so they can hold on to power. So understand that, it's part of their campaigning. They hire and send out a whole bunch of people. And if you notice, all the messages are always the same because they tell the PPP, the PPP Facebook people, this is what you need to say. So don't listen to it. All right, just understand that they're all coming from the same core in the PPP, and they all have the same message, but they're all sent out there to make it look like it's plenty people. Look how much people are supporting it. Well, guys, it's actually 50 fake profiles that just keep talking the same thing over and over, and 10 PPP people, and it just looks like plenty. So please don't get carried away with social media. All right, that's part of their campaign to make it look like the momentum is with them, but we understand. When you look at a picture, you go, oh my gosh, look, 50 shares. It's 50 shares from fake profiles. And then a couple PPP people that are blinded. And, as far as they're concerned, the PPP is the PPP is the best thing since sliced bread. It's funny because APNU has the exact same mechanism. So I posted a little while back, I'm part of GRDB, I'm on the board. And part of my portfolio is the value added department. And I posted that we're trying to make rice flour bread again, as a local product here. And all the APNU people picked it up, and it has like 200 shares on Facebook because all the APNU people, oh, look at them running back to Burnham ways, and they keep talking bad about him. I found it was really quite an eye-opening moment. I went, wow, it's the exact same thing on the other side. And as Timothy Jonas likes to say, it's twins we're looking at. The two of them keep trying to talk about how different they are from the other one. And it's identical twins. It is the exact same thing. You remember, funny enough, I was just talking about this today. The slogan when APNU got into power is "We time now." Is "We time now." After the 2015 elections, all the APNU supporters for 3 years straight is "We time now." During the 2020 elections, look how many of them came out on the road. Well, now we're just watching the same thing with the PPP. All right? It is these die hard. And if you notice, it's the same people over and over and over again. It's not different people. It's not like the momentum is growing outside. It's the same people over and over and over. Right? And the media blows it up. And they said, oh, look how many people from APNU are coming over. It's 5 people. It's only 5 people from APNU have gone over. All right, let's be a little calm with this. And then you see them, oh, we're the fastest growing economy, GDP in the world right now. Well, Jesus, when you go from $300 per capita to $1,500 per capita because we have oil now, yes, it looks great. But anyhow, take a walk down the road, take a drive, go talk to the people in the market. I guess I got to start doing that. I noticed Stabrook News does it, a man on the street segment. Take a road on the road, take a walk on the road. Speak to anybody in the market. Speak to any of the security guards you see there. Take the bus conductors, taxi, this, that. What they tell you? The exact same thing. Nothing ain't changed in my life. Cost of living gone up. Yes, I might have $10,000 more, but everything is literally 30 to 50% more expensive. So I understand. It's not nobody saving more money. But again, let me not drift. I don't like drifting too far away from really getting back focused on understanding what has occurred here in Madhya. So we've had another school burn down yesterday, I believe, Karasabai secondary school dormitory. And I again, that one very quickly came out, and we're going to get into this whole conversation of arson now. Very quickly, once again, came out that this was maliciously set. There are 4 people being held for arson. Now, anybody can do a little bit of Google search, any kind of little history check. Arson is not new in the world. Okay? During the Great Depression, during any kind of revolution anywhere in the world, whether it be France, whether it be England, whether it be Canada, whether it be America, arson is very common. Okay, arsonists happen for many reasons. One, people might be angry at situations, so want to make a statement. People might feel oppressed. People might actually have mental instabilities. Arsonists can happen for many, many, many reasons. All right? Arsonists will always exist, much like there will always be criminals. Okay? What we need to understand about that is this is why when you look at systems in place in progressive countries, in developed nations, these systems are put in place to be proactive to stop that from happening. You cannot just sit down and blame an arsonist for a fire happening and it going out of control. Why only part of that it falls on the arsonist? It's like saying, okay, let me give you guys something that might hit a little bit more closer to home. Why do you guys have grills on your windows? Think about it for a second. Why do all the houses in Guyana have grills on their windows? Well, any logical person is going to sit there and respond, well, to keep thieves out. That's why all of us have grills on our windows. To keep thieves out, okay? Not to keep thieves in, okay? Not to look at the thieves through the window, but to keep them out of your house. You know what that's called? A proactive measure to stopping you from being robbed, from stopping crime. It is a proactive measure. You've taken a step forward in ensuring nobody can break into your house and rob you. Now, fire is no different. You know why you have a fire extinguisher or a sprinkler system or a fire alarm? Because when a fire starts, whether it be because you left on your stove, whether it be because your little child is playing with matches like children do, maybe because we got blackout and you lit a candle and you fall asleep. Well, guess what? All of a sudden, the candle falls and the smoke goes up. A little fire starts, the smoke goes up, the smoke alarm picks it up. You wake up out of your sleep, you run and you grab the fire extinguisher and you're out the fire. So your whole house hasn't burnt to the ground. That is proactive steps to protecting yourselves. Now, in a school, it cannot be any different. It is a safety precaution in a proactive method. A sprinkler system has to be put in place. So when a little child smoking a cigarette or a child gets very angry and lights a fire, then the smoke goes up, hits the smoke alarm goes off, and the sprinkler kicks into play. All of a sudden, the whole building is now covered in water on the inside, sprinkled down. Guess what? You have now stopped that fire. So just like you have to put grills on your windows to stop crime, you then have to put fire precautions in place and tools to protect yourself from fires getting out of control. Because those things are going to happen one way or the other, whether because a man won't break into your house or whether because a kid lights a fire. I'm going to answer this call. Let's hear. Let me go to on speaker. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
How are you? Thank you for calling in. How can you add to the conversation we're having?
Well, I think you're trying to put the way that you shouldn't blame the person who scratched the match. Mm-hmm. Now, hold on. With the Carassa by one, I want you to know this. Mm-hmm. The Catholic Church built that dormitory, so you can't blame them for not putting in a fire sprinkler or a smoke detector, when you call them. I don't know how we're going to blame the government for that.
But I mean, that's a private institution, no?
Right, but so...
But just out of curiosity, is there not a fire code?
My question
Go ahead.
to you.
Uh-huh.
The fire, apart from forest fire,
mm-hmm.
wildfires they call them,
mm-hmm.
if someone doesn't scratch a match or a lighter, would fire start?
So you're asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
Well, I gave an example just now. What if somebody leaves on a stove? Or what if somebody lights a candle because they have blackout and the candle falls?
The fact of the matter was, the question is,
uh-huh.
if someone doesn't light the fire,
mm-hmm.
they had to light the stove.
Right.
They had to light the candle.
Right.
And if you're going to light the stove
Mm-hmm.
and the house burned down
Okay.
because you wasn't paying
All
attention.
right. What about an electrical fire? What about, let's say, your electrical wires short out? To be honest with you, most of the fires in this country, funny enough, I don't know if you know this statistic, most of the fires in this country occur through electrical fires, but more specifically from fans. Did you know that? Those little Lasco fans?
Fan cars a liar fire. Because
Yeah.
some people want to run the fan 24 hours.
So-
a fan can't run 24 hours.
But that answers your question, no? That nobody scratched a match there. So a fire still started.
Right. So who do you blame for that?
But exactly my point. You can't blame anyone in that case. But the fire
That's
still
exactly
happened.
That is exactly what I'm trying to get. I was trying to get on to Timothy since the night when you guys were talking.
Uh-huh.
The fact of the matter, Kian,
Mm-hmm.
as much as I'm thinking, you're a young politician, you get into politics,
Mm-hmm.
but one of the things you have to learn to do first and foremost is no matter who you are, it's trying to remain a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone wrong, you say they're wrong. If someone is right, you say they're right. There is no way
Okay.
the day before, the morning before, do you know if that fire did not take place, was set,
Mm-hmm.
the Major Dormitory would have still been there. Me and you would have never had this discussion if that little, for some strange reason, decided to spray whatever she sprayed and set the fire.
I'm going to play a clip for you just now from her lawyer in which she has said at no point in time that she's the one that started that fire. But I'll play that clip for you in a minute. But my question to you, though, is I hear what you're saying, and you have to understand that in a country like Guyana, we always are looking for somebody to blame. I get it. I understand that, with all that we deal with, we have this urge and need to point the finger somewhere. But my question to you again, though, is why did the school not have fire extinguishers or a sprinkler system or a smoke alarm or a fire escape? Or why did the fire truck come with no water? Especially, and I want you to know this, especially after 4 schools have burnt down in the last 2 years. They knew it was, how could you say you didn't know it was going to happen?
Okay, that's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess you're a part of a political party, right?
Yeah, but this is not about politics. This is just about safety.
No, hold on.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to get it correct.
Mm-hmm.
If the police
Mm-hmm.
have the authority to investigate and make sure everything is in place, why the lawmakers don't push for the very fire department to have the powers?
Great.
That they say that the grill is wrong.
Great
That
question.
they could have condemned the building.
Great question. Absolutely. You know what?
So that's why I want people like Timothy, Jonas, and you.
Uh-huh.
And you people are part of a political party.
Right.
That's where we need to start empowering agencies
So let me
do their job.
let me give you let me touch on that for a second. I mentioned it actually earlier in the show. So we're actually on to our 3rd fire chief now in the last 3 years. All right, here in Guyana. And what has happened now is all of these positions are something called acting. So the commissioner of police is an acting commissioner of police, and the fire chief is an acting fire chief. So what that has done now is that has taken away that autonomy, that independence for them to do their job. Meaning, if they don't follow what the minister and the government says, they are going to be fired. So understand that the minute you put somebody in that position, you end up in a hard position of pointing a finger at them. If they are looking at you saying, but you didn't tell me to do that, and if I went and did that and did the wrong thing, you could fire me. Remember, you could only work in instruction if you're not given autonomy. Say
I'll
again?
give you another one.
Go ahead.
Monday coming.
Yes.
Or I don't know if you have the time tomorrow being Saturday.
Yeah.
I would like for you to take your phone and go and visit St. Rose's High School
Okay.
that is presently under construction. It should be completed by year end.
Great.
And I would like for you to tell the nation,
Uh-huh.
if you see systems in there,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the fire alarm and sprinklers and these things,
Great.
so that we could start some way towards getting right.
I love it. You know what?
I would love if you and I could sit down. I want you to understand. I hear what you say and I see what you're saying, but there's a lot of things that need to do in this country, but it's simple things. We need to change law.
Great.
Why should a person act in a position for more than a year?
Yeah.
Well, never happen.
Well, yes and no, right? I mean, sometimes you have to understand that in order to, and I guess this lends to many people's argument, is that, you can't really go in for 1 year and make all the changes necessary. So, for example, you just gave me St. Rose's School, the new school that's building.
Yes.
But what I'd like to say to that first is, just because we are now building new buildings with the correct systems, which I'm happy about if that's the case, I hope that's the case. The fact of the matter is you still have 99.9% of the schools that currently exist. And unfortunately, you can't wait. And as I like to state, I am not a fire marshal. I'm not a fire expert. We are asking people to do a job that are not professional in their capacity. And what I mean by that is I gave the example just now with Ropes and Ben, the Minister of Home Affairs. He's an engineer by trade. How exactly can we expect him to ensure that his fire chiefs, that his police commissioners are doing the right work if he doesn't know to do it himself? You understand?
There is a lot of things, and we got to learn to understand. I mean, I'm way bigger than you. Mm-hmm. We have been a nation that always reacted.
That's right. Agreed with you.
I give you something that I know you drive, right? You drive, right? And
yes,
you
I do.
will see on the streets of Georgetown, trailers park up.
That's a hazard until somebody slams into it and dies.
No, here. God forbid it don't happen yet. I hope not.
No, it's happened many times.
When it happened, then you're going to hear the traffic chief, the president, everybody going to come down. But it shouldn't have been there.
That's right. Then
I'm telling you, young man,
excellent.
I have seen this country for years being a reactive system, not a proactive. They never, and there is law that said you can't do that,
No, absolutely. But that's why we have to have accountability. So, all right. Well, here, I got a few more calls coming through. I really appreciate you reaching out. All right. Thanks.
In touch with you from time to time.
Please. This is the number personally. Good.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care. That's one thing I want to explain to the public. That was a great call. And these are the type of conversations we've been having a lot of since this has happened. And I think that's what I meant by the wool is coming off of people's eyes and understanding that when it comes to responsibility of ensuring the nation's safety, making a bad decision, as we are seeing, is just as detrimental as making no decision at all. I'm sorry, I'm going to take another call here. I'm trying to take some today. Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
How are you, sir? Thank you for calling.
Am I on to the program?
Yes, everyone can hear you.
I agree with you 100% on everything that you said. And my point is that despite, I want you to listen to this critical point, despite of how this fire light, my view is there was no getting away from that place.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was no way out.
No fire escape. Those girls were trapped in there.
Nothing. There was no way out, my brother. Somebody need to answer for that part.
After four schools have already burnt. They knew this was could happen, and they did nothing. They sat on their hands again.
Exactly. And you know what? What you said there just now, that people's acting is so true.
Yeah.
We got the acting Chief Justice. We got the acting
That's right.
Everybody's acting.
That's right.
Brother, I am with you 100%.
Thank you for calling in, man. I appreciate it.
I think this time around, I think you guys is standing up, brother. You guys is standing up. You guys is nailing the hammer on the nail. You know why? You were with a party. You are with a party, yes.
Yeah.
But then you stand up for democracy.
That's right.
I appreciate that. And what I'm trying to to say is that I believe to my heart, you got me vote, buddy.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You got me vote. You got it. You win my heart, man. You win my heart, brother.
Thank you. Thank you for calling in as well. All right, you got my number here. Please feel free anytime, right?
Yes, brother. You got me heart. You got me heart. Trust me.
All right. Take care. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much for standing up for the poor and ordinary people.
Yeah, that's what I have to do. It's my duty. Thank you.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you.
Take care. You know, I want to say that, and again, I think it's important for everyone to understand. You know, we do what we do. You know, people like Timothy Jonas, myself, Asha Kissoon, and all the executives in ANUG and on board with us. You know, it's a thankless job, and I like to talk about the numbers because at the end of the day, the masses will always be against us. We know the party loyalists are deep in the PPP and deep in the PNC, and they're not changing. We know that. So we know that there's only a handful of people out there that understand and will support. But what I'd like to say to that handful of people out there is, it only takes a couple thousand of us. It only takes 20,000, 4 seats. It only takes 4 seats for us to create a minority government and hold this country accountable and hold the PPP and the PNC accountable. It doesn't take a lot of people. One stadium full of people. So when we hear and we read 500 messages, all the people that disagree and looking for excuses for PPP and PNC, well, the same group of people did it for PNC when there was a when they were rigging the election. Everybody made excuses for them. And now everybody making excuses for the PPP. Well, I'm not taking it. The same way I stood up for democracy and they tried to rig the election is the same way I will stand up for these 20 children and everybody else in Guyana that needs protection. I have to do what's right. I don't need to be in this. I have no need to be in politics. All right? Everyone knows this. Everybody likes to talk about my dual citizenship. I don't need to do that. All right? I am here because I think that we need to hold our government accountable so that our children, my child grows up here, my daughter lives here. My daughter just wrote common entrance here. Okay, she is going to live here with me. I'm not leaving her. All right? So I will be here and I will fight for a better life for her. And through that, I would love for more Guyanese to come out. I'm going to say something very honest with you. I can't tell you how disappointed I was to watch so many people come out for that park and meter situation, for that park and meter protest. No, this is affecting our money. But now that 20 children have died, you don't see those same people out on the road. That's what makes me sad. Nobody in this country is helping each other. Nobody's fighting for each other. It's every man for himself. And we can't go anywhere. We can't grow in that situation. We have to do what's right when it's right. We cannot just sit by and allow the government to do nothing and make excuses when bad things happen. You heard the first caller. What if somebody hits all those things at the side of the road? We're just sitting down. It's just one tragedy after the next waiting to happen. Now, accountability, I'm going to play a video now for you. This is accountability. The first thing that we watch this government do is pass the blame immediately onto a little 15-year-old Amerindian girl. Okay, the first thing we did is pass the blame. I'm going to ask my technical team here to we're going to bring up the clip with her lawyer speaking. The first court date came up 2 days ago, I believe. All right, with this little girl's matter where they're charging her for 19 charges for murder. All right, nobody has heard from this little girl. Nobody knows what happened. There's no proof of anything. There's not a fire report out yet. There's not a police report out yet. All we've heard is rumors. I don't even know. The first thing that came out, just like the Karasabai incident, the first thing you hear is arson. No police report, no fire report done, but the firemen already saying it's arson. How could you know that and there's no report done? It doesn't make any sense. Okay, and what I'm going to do here is it's for us to really see through. I'm going to ask them to bring up the clip of the lawyer speaking now. Let's just take a listen for a few minutes and hear what our lawyer said.
I'm your storyteller, Calistro Farrier. The continuing story of the tragedy in Madia, a fire that broke out in the township of Madia in the hinterlands of Guyana that claimed the lives of now 20 students who were locked in a dormitory at a high school there. Most of the victims, or all of the victims, are indigenous students, and they were indigenous people of Guyana And because of where they lived, they were all kept in the dormitories because they lived far away from the school. The fire broke out, and now the fire service and police in Guyana have said that it was maliciously set, and the 15-year-old was arrested and charged with 19 counts of murder. 20 students have died. One student died on Tuesday morning, and it is not clear whether or not a 20th charge will be brought. The young lady who was accused is now in juvenile detention and will appear in court in July. She's represented by a team of attorneys, and the lead attorney on this is Dexter Todd. He joins me on the narrative now to talk about the situation. Welcome to the program, Attorney Todd.
Thank you so much for having me and for the invitation extended.
And well, certainly it is a sad time for Guyana with this situation, but you have the job of representing your client, who happens to be a minor, a juvenile. Since she has been arrested and charged with the 19 counts, what has transpired so far? Have you been able to speak with her?
I have been able to speak with her. Once a juvenile is charged, there is the Juvenile Holding Center. The accommodation in Guyana for juveniles who are offenders are, of course, different from that of the actual prisons. So the accommodation is usually favorable because the lawyers have the opportunity to go in and to speak with the juvenile and to be facilitated by either the welfare officer or some other of the authorities who will be looking over the juvenile center at the time. There has been, of course, no difficulty in reaching her and having conversations with her.
And is there anything that you can disclose in terms of her state of mind right now, her demeanor? What's the situation with her? How is she coping with this situation?
I believe my own personal view is that we're still dealing with a child who is very traumatized. I believe psychologically there is a lot going on there. And I would hope, based on the recommendations, I think of a number of persons in society, including myself, that the authorities, and when I speak of the authorities, I do speak of the persons who have the charge and the responsibility of managing administration of the juvenile center, that child be facilitated with some form of counseling, which will help her to of course ease this very tragic incident. She has been very much vocal on the point of denying the allegations of not setting fire, and she at all given opportunities that she has had with the police, in the company of her mother, and of course the welfare officer, and this is over very rigorous interviews with the police. She has denied those allegations, and she is coming to grips very slowly with trying to understand why is it that she is before the court. I am doing my best as with the other lawyers to try to explain to her the entire process, and I believe that will take some time for it to really be digested, that she is actually facing the courts for very, very, very serious crimes committed against her classmates and of course people that she has lived with for 4 years in the dormitory.
And you know, one of the things we're hearing is that she's accused of those crimes because she was retaliating against her phone being taken away. Were you able to get to the bottom of this phone issue, that she had a phone and she was trading messages with an adult, and so anything you can speak to around that?
I will say that there was, she has, of course, disclosed that there was taken away of her phone. But it was not in a situation in which was peddled earlier in the media. I don't know where that narrative came from, where the story came from, but that is not how she describes what happened. She did not give any resistance in the phone, and actually the phone was returned to her for her to communicate with her mother. And then she, of course, handed back the phone, and that this narrative of her being upset because she was texting an adult and she retaliated as a result of the phone being taken away from her is not one that she supports.
Guys, and there you have it. It is 7:30 now. I know that was a lot for people to digest. I hope you guys can feel free to look back and reach out to me. That was hearing it from her lawyer himself. We're hopefully going to get him on the show next week. I'm planning to have a in-depth conversation with him so everybody can join then. But other than that, I'd like to really thank you all for joining me this evening. I know it is still a weight on a lot of Guyanese as to what has occurred over the past few weeks, and we're hoping that we are going to get deeper and deeper into this matter, and it's something we're going to be following very closely, and hopefully we're going to make some strides in accountability and who's taking responsibility for what has occurred here. Nonetheless, thank you guys for joining me this evening. As usual, my name is KIAN JABOUR. I will not stop fighting. I will not stop being there. Every week I will be right here trying to update you guys as best as I can. Please feel free to join me. And once again, thank you for watching, and see you next week. Take care.